Hello, today is March 8th, 2026, and today is the 19th day of Lent. This morning my alarm went off, and when it did, uh, it felt like it was waking me up, like out of a deep sleep. Normally when my alarm goes off, I'm already like awake or half awake or, expecting it, but it was like my body was not expecting it to go off, which it wasn't surprising to me that I felt that way because I had just stayed up the entire night before and didn't sleep very much that next morning. Uh, and went to bed at 10 um, because last night I was going to watch the first Formula One race of the season, and it was scheduled for broadcast started at 8:40, and so I've never actually watched Formula One live, but it's on Apple TV. Bought the rights to the broadcast, so now I have the opportunity to watch it. And I was like, okay, 8:40, I'll watch that and then go to bed. Well, 10 o'clock rolls around and they are just now lining up on the grid to start. So I was like, this ain't happening. So I just paused it and went to sleep, and then was startled awake by my alarm. Got ready and then did an hour of stillness meditation, and in the last 10 minutes I was feeling antsy to get going, I guess. And I had whenever I have somewhere to go after my meditation, I've noticed that I'll get this feeling that the timer didn't go off and I oversat the timer. I need to. This morning I was like, that didn't happen. The timer is going. It's never not gone off. But I peeked just ever so slightly just to see the timer still up on my screen, but I didn't look. I purposefully only peeked enough to see that there was basically the silhouette of it there, but I didn't actually see what time it was. But it was I know it was around 10 minutes. And after I peeked, I dropped back in and went to the deepest place I had gone in the meditation. And then I came out, I got lost in thought and came out of that, and then actually looked, and there was 6 minutes left. And so I just made myself go back into it, and then fell back into that deeper space again. And in that last 10 minutes was whenever the spiritual joy came, and I was smiling, and I felt that I was in this reset state and had energy, and I was in the middle of that, and the alarm went off, and it went off not with me just waiting for it. It went off in the middle of being in it. And so it made me have the thought of it takes the first 50 minutes to have the last 10 minutes. It's if it was only in the last 10 minutes that I came to that space, but it took the first 50 in order for me to drop into that space. And I think that's just true of that moment, and then also maybe a larger metaphor or life lesson. That, I guess good things take discipline and time on work, and you don't get that reward without the time, discipline, and work. But the benefit you get from it is worth everything you put into it. So yeah, I was thinking about that. And then I got in my car and started it, and it said 6:30 a.m. and I had a jump scare of what the heck? Why? I was thinking it was 7:30 this whole time because that's what my phone was saying. And then I realized that it was time change weekend and I had lost an hour of sleep. Uh, and that's why I was startled awake by my alarm, because not only had I stayed up the night before and only slept for like 3 or 4 hours, whatever it was. No, four at least. I guess it would be like 4 or 5 hours. But I did not get a full night's sleep, and then went to bed at 10, and alarm went off at 6:10. Um, so what would have been 8 hours and 10 minutes was actually only 7 hours. So I was watching the Formula One race today, and it was like essentially halfway through, and I was like, I was paying attention. I was into it for the beginning, and then it's like halfway through, and I noticed that I'm like drifting off, and I can't actually watch because I'm falling asleep. So I just paused it and then closed my eyes for probably an hour. I don't know. I don't believe I fell into sleep, but definitely was just like in a restful state. Uh, and then had enough energy to watch the rest. And then now, as I'm talking, I'm like, my eyes are so heavy. So I should probably go to bed earlier than normal today. Then I went to church and I journaled while the band was rehearsing, and I had a few things to do, so I did journal, but I also kind of rushed. Rushed it a bit. There's a girl at church who is beautiful, and she's like a church crush, but it's funny because I have to keep reminding myself she's 23 years old, and then being like, in what world, honey? She's 23. But can't deny that she's beautiful. It's funny, I can be regular and normal around pretty women unless my brain has decided to have a crush on them, and then I can't function normally until I've been, basically, unless I get exposure therapy and I know them as an actual person and not the crush person that my brain made up. It's happened so many times. Yeah, it's like I love having a crush because what a great feeling. But I hate having a crush because then I'm so uncool. Not that that's my goal, but that's the just truth of it. Of like, just cannot be cool. I'm getting there with different crushes, and then it's funny because my longest time crush, Emily, it's like I've gone through seasons where, I mean, she was like the first real big crush after divorce, and my brain just I was already in haywire mode, and then latched on, and I think I said this in a previous journal, but she became my special interest, and gone through just intense seasons of like, can't not think about it, to it, I'm fine, and then even like being fine around her, and then the very next time that I'm around her, it's like my body's in a different energy, and it's just like can't not compute, broken, broken, broken. I'm like, geez, Louise. She's not interested. None of them are. That's like, just, that's what's funny about crushes, is it's like, I've literally asked them out, and they have said they're not interested in those words. Not even like, it's not even ambiguous. It's, I'm not interested. And it's like, okay, those are not minced words. That is the truth. And then my brain will still just be like, just ignore the facts. That's how, that's, that's how it was with Emily. It was like, she literally had a boyfriend whenever, I first got a crush on her, and he was around, and my brain just like blocked that out of like, that's not real. He's nope, nope. It's like, refused to believe it. So silly, but also quite fun. That was just something I thought of today, because I saw her, and it just made me be like, to myself, in what world, honey? Calm down. What else? Oh yeah, and then after church, well, also while I was on my way to church, I was not scheduled to do anything this Sunday, as far as like a specific responsibility, other than taking care of the baptism tank and taking photos of that. And on my way, Bodie texted me and said that he's sick, and so asked if I could get on announcements. And so I went from not doing anything to be on announcements, to being on stage. And then Matt had told Rachel to stay home too, because she was sick all weekend. So then we shared Rachel's duties as well, and it all went great. But it was just funny of like, I was just on my way to church, to just like being there for my, normal self, and then, having no scheduled duties to, oh, never mind, I'm fully on involved. But it was good though. And then afterward, I rushed out. After I finished up my tasks, I rushed out because I normally go to Mercury Lounge Bluegrass Brunch every Sunday. I haven't been. Did I go last week? Yes. So never mind. I was gonna say I haven't been since Lent, but I have been once. But Johnny wasn't playing. But the first time that I went, during, so 3 weeks ago, I went, and there was it was said sold out, and there was a line of people outside of Mercury, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So I just left. And then I saw that they had posted online yesterday that you could get your Bluegrass Brunch tickets early, but you forfeit them if you don't show up by 1. And it's a gamble of whether or not I can be there by 1. Today I was there with 10 minutes to spare, but that's because like I did my things and immediately left. But I get there, and huge line, and I asked Fish what this new situation is, and he said, "This is the new situation. I'm bound to my list." And he's like, "It's like I'll get you in, but I couldn't skip the line, and it was just, so I just came here and watched Formula One." But I realized, I didn't think about this. What happened is Rolling Stone posted an article about Johnny Mullinex and Bluegrass Brunch. And so uh, since then, Bluegrass Brunch has been ruined by all these people who have never been before, trying to get in. And now me, who has been going religiously to Bluegrass Brunch for a couple years, like it's an every Sunday thing, and there's a whole community of people that's an every Sunday thing. And then now Rolling Stone posts this article and they ruined it. So that's quite unfortunate, because that's one of my favorite things to do, is be out in the sun after church, and be able to dance for a couple hours in the afternoon and then go home. Like, yes, please. Ugh. And then, yep, that's the update. Before I started recording, I was trying to figure out what I was going to say, because I don't really feel like I have anything particular to talk about today, to wax philosophical. So I thought maybe I would just tell you a story, and tell you the story of one of my tattoos. And I just thought I'd tell you the story of this shot glass clink that I got right there. I got that the story is from a couple years ago. And whenever I was going after divorce and I was healing and going out dancing and all those things, one of the things that God told me in that season was make yourself regular somewhere. And I had made myself regular at St. Vitus and at Rabbit Hole, and I don't think Mercury yet. I hadn't gone and made myself regular at Mercury yet. But those two places for sure were my regular. And I always went to Rabbit Hole on Thursday, because on Thursday they had this thing called Community Sound, where it's like jam band karaoke, essentially, where you can sign up in 20-minute increments, I think, to be on any instrument or vocal. So I always started my night there watching them do that before I went over to St. Vitus to dance the night away. And I left and went, and I started walking there, and just in my spirit, God just told me to not go to Rabbit Hole. And I was like, okay, I don't know where else to go. I mean, it was like I hadn't made myself regular anywhere else. Vitus doesn't open till 9. I don't know where to go. And so I just start walking around, and I'm like walking around kind of the Blue Dome area where these two places are, and just figuring out where the heck I'm supposed to go. But I just know I'm not supposed to go to Rabbit Hole. And I like legitimately have no clue. I'm lost. I'm a typical boy making plans of like, I don't know. And finally, after walking around the block many times, I just went into Rabbit Hole. And immediately when I walked in, it was like more confirmation, not supposed to be there. And so I just walked in the front door, walked straight through, out the back door, and through the alleyway, and just like, it was just went straight through. Because I mean, I didn't even break stride. Just as soon as I got in, I just like felt it again. Not supposed to be there. So then I went around the block, and I had walked by it a couple times already, but just this time I walked by Red's bar, and Red's faces Blue Dome, and they have these big garage doors, half garage doors that open up so you can look out over the street. And that also means you can look in. And so I like was able to look in, saw there was basically nobody in there. And so I just went up to the bar, ordered a beer, and then went and sat by those garage doors. There's bar seats there, and you can just look outside. So I just sat there with that beer and just looked outside. And I don't know, I halfway through that beer, and this couple walks by on the outside. They walk by me, but from where I'm sitting, I don't think they could have like seen me. But they walk right by me, and they walk by the front door and stop, and then they turn around and they come inside, and they go to the bar. They get their drinks, and then they come sit by the window as well, but like 6 bar stools down. But we're basically the only people in there, and I'm sitting there. They sit there for a while, and the guy, he gets up and goes to the restroom. I look over at her, and whenever I look at her, I kind of get this jolt of electricity, and she doesn't see me look, but I had glanced over, got this jolt, looked back at outside, and I just kind of assumed, pretty girl, I stole a glance. That was the jolt of electricity. And her guy comes back from the bathroom, and whenever he comes back, she says something to him, and they switch seats to where now her back is to me and he's facing me. And I thought that was odd. I thought, oh, I guess maybe she saw me glance over there and that made her uncomfortable or something, so she turned so I couldn't see her. And then a couple minutes later, he gets up and he comes and taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, do you come here a lot?" And I was like, "No, it's actually my first time." And he was like, "Oh," he was like, "Is there live music happening?" And I look over at the stage, and there was somebody with like a guitar case setting up, and I was like, "Yeah, it looks like somebody's gonna play." And he was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then I don't, maybe he said something else, I don't know, but he also had, just for context, like this thick Irish accent. And then he goes back and sits with her, and then maybe a few minutes later, he comes up and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna take some shots. Do you want to take one with us?" And I was like, "Sure." I mean, it was so random, and like, I don't, at this point, I don't think anybody had ever asked me that, and so I was like, "Okay." He was like, "All right, come over here," and he's like, "Sit with her. I want to go get the shots." And I was like, "All right." So, uh, I sit down and just like, "Hey, I'm Cody." She says her name or whatever, and um, he comes back with the shots, and we drink them, and then she says, I want to tell you something that we haven't told anybody. You're the very first person we're telling." And I was like, "Okay." She said, "We just got engaged." And I was like, "Oh, congratulations." And she was said, "So he's from Ireland, obviously, and we live in Ireland, but we're back in town for my sister's wedding." And she said the only thing that he knows about Tulsa is the TV show Tulsa King. Um, and I said, and so I was like, and she had the smirk on her face and was saying they just got engaged, and the only thing he knows about Tulsa is Tulsa King. So I just smile and I just look at her, and I said, "So he asked you at Center of the Universe?" And they both start laughing. And he was like, "I didn't know." One, he didn't know how cliche that is. Two, he was like, "I didn't know that it was actually like a dump. Like, it's not pretty, but the show makes it, look like, and it's supposed to be this whole thing." But anyways, that was just a funny thing. And then in conversation, after we talk about that for a second, she goes, "Hey, okay, I have to tell you something." And I was like, "All right." She goes, "So I I don't," she's like, I don't do this." She's like, I've never done this before, but I had to do this." Um, she said, "We were walking by here, and we were going back to our hotel room after he proposed, and we walked by here, and God told me that I needed to come in here and talk to you. And so we decided to come in and get a drink before we went back to our hotel room." And I was like, "Okay." And she goes, "So I sent him over to talk to you, and he came back and was like, said, no, he's good. He's normal. Whatever he said. And she was like, no, I think you go back and get him. So that's why he came back and got me. And then she said, I know that I was supposed to come in here and talk to you. And she said, and what God has told me to tell you is that you are so loved and he's going to do great things through you. And immediately, like, full body goosebumps, and I'm like, tears in my eyes. And she just gave me a hug, and I said thank you, and she said, like, bye. And so, like, they left, and I left. Like, I just waited for them. They walked out the door, and then shortly after I walked out the door, and then I just, like, walked home, just crying all the way home, because what a wild set of circumstances, that were so. She didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be there, or she didn't know that I was supposed to be there. I didn't know I was supposed to be there. Um, the whole thing of, it wasn't that I went to my normal spot and somebody came by and said I was supposed to be here. I was supposed to talk to you and tell you that God loves you and he's going to do great things through you. And they had never been there. I had never been there. And it wasn't by accident that I was there. God told me, do not go to Rabbit Hole. And he didn't tell me where to go. He just said, don't go to Rabbit Hole. But he obviously knew I was going to end up there, or he was going to use wherever I ended up. I don't know, but just and also the timing orchestrated of, I knew I wasn't supposed to go, but I probably walked around that area for 20 minutes at least, just trying to figure out what the heck to do. And I, like I said, walked through Rabbit Hole and then finally wound up there. And then I'm like, had been there for just a few minutes or so before they come in. And then for not only that, but for her to have just got engaged, to hear the voice of God and obey, and for him to follow her lead in that, and come and talk to me. And then I hadn't even told her. I'm remembering now that, like, after she had said that, I told her what I do for the church and what I do for a living. Like, she didn't know up until that point. And just a wild piece of evidence for the voice of God and the Spirit moving and the Spirit speaking to multiple people for us to bless each other. Because she stepped out in faith. This wasn't something that, as long as I don't believe she was lying when she said she's never done this before, but she felt it so strongly she had to do it. And she was so scared that she sent her new fiance to get me instead of just walking up to me herself, because she wasn't confident in doing it. And then for me to look over at her and for me to feel this, jolt of electricity that I interpreted it as my heterosexuality, but it was a spiritual jolt of and then ultimately all of that so that God could tell me that how much he loves me. And then he's going to use me and do great things through me to give me confidence in my calling, to give me confidence in who I am, and to say, trust and obey, say yes and amen to the things that I lay on you. And I will guide you. I will lead you. I will put people on on your path to tell you how much I love you and the plans that I have for you. And so that's why, the shot glasses are on my arm, and my collection of my sticker collection of stories of God at work in my life. So that's the story of the shot glasses.